There's 700 million people that are watching.
Every twitch of a muscle, every turn of a steering wheel, shift of a gear.
It's about blocking out distraction and focusing under pressure.
And they both go off!
Formula One car is a real hybrid animal.
Verstappen's in, Lewis Hamilton!
To be on the limit, trying to beat the others, that's what I love.
You have no idea what's going to happen during a race.
It's you pushing your own limit and how you can go beyond.
Everybody in the McLaren team looking at me as a Mika, you are the best.
Mika Häkkinen wins in Japan!
And we give you confidence to win, become a world champion. But you need help for your teammate. And only one can win.
How do you mentally position yourself when you are an athlete and you are a competitor to know that you're always going to play second fiddle?
A teammate who is constantly pursuing number one when they're in the position of number two, it's a slow grounding down. On the odd occasion, I may be number one, but it's difficult to do it over the course of a season.
In one way, it's the ultimate barometer. If on your day you can out-qualify Max or Lewis, you've done a great job.
And Perez out-qualifies Verstappen. That's a much better qualifying from the Mexican.
It's a motivator in many ways, but in many others it's got to be soul-crushing. Then ultimately, sometimes even your best isn't going to be good enough to beat drivers who are unquestionably the two finest racers in Formula One at the moment.
Fighting for a championship against your teammate is always harder than fighting against another team because you just can't hide everything you're doing. It's open. It's an open book.
Having two alpha drivers at Mercedes created difficulties at the team and may actually have held them back.
And it's Nico Rosberg and Hamilton's onto the grass, and Hamilton's had a massive crash, and he's crashed into his teammate. The two Mercedes come together.
They did not want a 2016 ever again.
So where do you go from here with Nico in terms of mending bridges with your friend?
Well, we're not friends. You know, we're colleagues, and we'll work to get the team as many 1-2s and points as possible.
Does the fact that you've known each other for a very long time not count for anything in terms of friendship?
Maybe.
Valtteri Bottas was the best teammate that Lewis Hamilton could have asked for, and therefore the best pairing that Mercedes could have asked for.
Valtteri fulfilled his role perfectly. I think he knew from the outset he was there to be the wingman.
He has never really challenged Lewis Hamilton, even when they had no external competitors, really.
I think he's done disservice quite a lot.
Valtteri Bottas crosses the line to win the Turkish Grand Prix. Yes!
He was there to be a number two, not always a dutiful number two, and a number two who could and would take victory.
Nice moment to thank my critics, to whom it may concern you.
The statistics don't lie. The sheer number of race victories, world championships that they've amassed together makes them one of the most potent pairings in Formula One history.
We all know about the cursed second Red Bull seat. It has had a revolving door of drivers try to take that and keep that position for longer than a season.
I lost it.
Oh, we've had a big crash for Alexander Albon.
The Red Bull clearly isn't a very easy car to drive, something which younger, less experienced drivers have struggled with.
In the case of Perez, what we were all hoping would happen is that a driver with more experience would be able to tame that wild bull.
Checo was able more consistently to draw more out of it and get closer to Max than we've seen for a while.
Well done, Sergio! Well done. Thank you for finishing that off for us. Great job.
Every driver thinks they can win. Every driver wants to be a champion. It must be such a bizarre scenario to go into a race team and knowing your race is going to be sacrificed.
If you see Valtteri with Lewis, if you see Checo with Max, in terms of teammate, Fernando was a little bit more difficult to work with. He was able to put the team completely on his side. He had a lot of power inside the team. And maybe that on the mind side, it was a little bit more difficult for me to work. I felt straight away that something is really not correct. Second race of the season in Australia.
But Massa come charging through up into third place there.
10 laps to go, I was third. Fernando was fourth. So the team asked me to let him by.
Felipe, Fernando behind. He's faster than you. That's the message.
I didn't do that, and nobody knew it. I fight for the championship 2 years before, and then we arrived here, but that was really affect me, because I was thinking, why?
There is a crucial move in the championship.
Germany was another strong point.
A lot of people are predicting that Alonso would have been favoured a lot earlier.
That I understood that maybe Fernando had a team on his side.
You have to put your teammate to sleep until it's too late. You just wait. You don't do qualifying laps. Your teammate is ahead of you until the last 5 minutes of the last test, and suddenly you put in a quick lap.
What an incredible young man, 25 years old, Jacques Villeneuve is.
That's a big shock, but it's too late for him to react.
Well, I was a little bit surprised by the difference in lap time. I don't know why, but it felt great. The car was very good and we did a lot of quick laps, so I'm very confident.
Psychologically, that was heavy to carry.
I had a good relationship with Jacques right from the beginning. I liked his attitude. He was a bit cocky. He'd come from high-speed ovals in the States and wasn't short on bravery. He said at the beginning of the year when we were testing it, I think you can overtake around the outside of the last corner at Estoril. And everyone looked at him and thought, you haven't got a clue. Of course he did it, didn't he? He went around the outside of Michael Schumacher.
Look left, it's Villeneuve going past. Jacques Villeneuve is taking Michael Schumacher. Villeneuve cuts ahead of the Ferrari. Fantastic bit of driving.
It was a good battle with Michael, got him on the outside. I think the oval experience helped a little bit there, and it was actually a lot of fun.
Michael was freaked out because he thought it was dangerous. Well, I mean, coming from Michael Schumacher, that's just a compliment. I do see a little bit of Schumacher in Max.
A driver's ability to compartmentalize critical illness via crashing is a psychological skill. Those that are able to master honing in their attention are the ones that, in the end, take more risk.
Oh, and Hill hits Schumacher, they both go off! Amazing!
It's not the first time in front of Damon, and he took away the possibility for me to extend the lead towards him, which I'm not very happy with.
Welcome along to Monza. It's the fastest race of the season. Daniel Ricciardo will have the inside line here, ahead of Max Verstappen. Hamilton on the outside of Lando Norris. Hamilton and Verstappen go into the second chicane, and Hamilton is forced wide.
The great thing about Monza is that both of them were out of position. Red Bull, who hold the world record for fastest pit stops, make a mistake.
Oh, it's a long hold, a really long hold for Verstappen.
Max has sat there for what must have felt like forever. And when he comes out, they're all of a sudden side by side.
They go wheel to wheel, and Verstappen's hit Lewis Hamilton! Contact. They come together!
Thank God for the halo.
Senna, Prost, Hill, Schumacher. Are we now talking Verstappen, Hamilton?
It's a great rivalry. It's intense. It's very, very tight, and there's still a way to go in this championship. So I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs between now and Abu Dhabi.
Before a war, there's a little bit of testing that goes on, and you have a few shots across the bows. They've shown that they're going to be uncompromising. They both got the message. They both know that they're not afraid to defend and race hard. There's no sign of weakness on either side. The way I look at 94, Ayrton should have been there fighting Michael Schumacher. I gave it a good go. When I look back, there's a whole load of things I could have done differently. I was totally naive. There was never a mention of, if you're going to go past him, Damon, just be aware that he may defend vigorously.
Schumacher's lost time, Hill goes by.
Oh, out goes Schumacher!
But of course I didn't know Michael's character. I didn't know he'd hit the wall. This was the first time that Michael had gone for a title, so I just assumed that people wanted to win without crashing.
Damon suddenly was there, tried to pass me. I was stuck in a situation where I couldn't do anything. And we just run over each other.
It's over now, and it's a bit of an empty feeling, but I think I gave him a good run for his money, and he certainly was feeling the pressure because he ended up falling off the road.
Winning the championship, the emotions in me, I mean, Nigel can talk about this as well. You can't really bring it outside. I mean, I just have them here and can't express them.
We didn't have a relationship with Michael. We didn't really talk. We didn't get along. Maybe because we're both fighting for the championship, and maybe because I didn't bend to his will and he wasn't used to that. And I stood up to him. Spent the 3 weeks leading to that last race reminding people what happened to Damon.
We're professionals, and we know what we have to do. If we do something that's not sports, then we have to live with it. And if you're capable of living with it, then good for you. I know I wouldn't be capable of living with it, so I just wouldn't do something like that.
By reminding Schumacher in the press deliberately, again and again, it plants a seed of doubt, and that might be the fraction required.
When you're on the edge, you're pushing a little bit the limit, maybe you're not thinking straight, you will make the wrong decision. There were some coming together with Irvine during the weekend who blocked me on purpose to try and put some pressure, so then I went to him angrily, but that was also to pass a message. It's not that I was suddenly angry and I need to go and see him. I think that put a little bit of pressure on Michael, to the point where the FIA said if something like this happens, that driver will be disqualified. That was a big part and parcel of winning the championship.
Villeneuve is all over him, look, he's going through! Oh yes! I don't think... Now goes Michael Schumacher! That didn't work, Michael, you hit the wrong part of him, my friend. I don't think that will cause Villeneuve a problem.
Jack Villeneuve settles for third place at the World Championship of 1997. Wow!
So how do you reflect on the crash now?
I say thank you. Michael went off and didn't get back on the track. Overtaking him without crashing into him, then he could have gotten back to me later in the race and maybe overtaken me.
The way he hit me was really, really hard. I'm surprised that I could actually finish the race. You know, either Michael had his eyes closed or somehow his hands slid on the steering or something.
If I'm the one who had been pushed off the track and lost the championship, then yes, I would have been really upset.
In 1997, Michael was held up as being not just a racing driver in Formula One, but a focal point for kids in karting, for drivers around the world. And to have a world champion drive like that was not seen as acceptable.
When you are on the starting grid and you go for racing, yeah, it's gonna be tough. But it's no way you're gonna go there and take somebody off. I don't think that's the right way to do it.
I really think that I'm ruthless in that car, but if you're a pushover, you're never gonna get to the front. So eventually you need to get your elbows out and you need to be tough.
Here comes Hamilton, blast around the outside of Leclerc.
To get to the top, you have to take it. No one's gonna give it to you. You have to work. So you have to be aggressive at times. It's not like, oh no, you go by. I won't overtake you, you keep that position. No, I'm taking it.
Is this hammer time? Lewis Hamilton will-to-will on the inside.
Max's talent in a Formula One car has been clear from the get-go. His touch at the wheel and on the pedals, the speed, and to take the fight to Lewis Hamilton.
I think both are very tough mentally. Maybe Max is more tough mentally now compared to Lewis on the same moment of his career. I would say Max was making a lot of mistakes at the beginning of his career.
And Verstappen goes straight into the barrier. It's Tandevot.
When you are in your first year, 17 years old, if you do something like that and you're not penalized, it's completely wrong. The FIA needs to be strong in the proper way.
Max, what's your response to what Felipe said?
I will not change my driving style.
Max has shown that he's evolved from his first few seasons, where he was just a little bit sometimes over the top, making some mistakes.
Verstappen, I think, just overcooking it on the brake slightly.
He's really matured as a person and as a driver.
What's fascinating is that when Max first arrived on the scene and in his early years, he was seen as being a guy who just relied on that innate ability, that he didn't put the work in, that he wasn't that much of a thinker. And then what we've seen this year is that he absolutely is.
Here in the Lone Star State, well, two stars are lighting up this championship battle.
That is Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes race. They know that they are supremely strong around there.
It's lights out, away we go. Hamilton gets away well. Max Verstappen now tries to cover him off and pushes him to the left-hand side. Hamilton on the inside, pushes Max Verstappen wide. Lewis Hamilton got the dream start that he wanted.
Max has learnt in every single race, and he's made the strategies work.
Oh, Max Verstappen a lot closer.
He's sliding a lot and have a lot more pace.
Red Bull have gone for the undercut.
Hamilton is going to carry on for a bit longer.
Verstappen's taken 4 seconds out of Hamilton's lead.
Lewis Hamilton coming in to make his pit stop. Max Verstappen ahead of Hamilton. You can hear the Red Bull fans. Did Mercedes stay out a bit too long? Max Verstappen wins the US Grand Prix and double his advantage in the World Championship.
At that point, I thought, that's game, set, match. Mercedes can't come back from this.
Congratulations, Max. That was an aggressive strategy, but you made it work.
Yeah, of course, we lost out in the start, so we had to try and do something else, but the tire wear is quite high around this track, so we did go aggressive, and I was not sure it was going to work, but yeah, the last few laps were fun.
Here at Interlagos, crowd absolutely love it. Hamilton on top in qualifying.
The two championship contenders side by side again on the front of the sprint.
At the end of qualifying, there is a tiny fault found with Lewis Hamilton's rear wing.
Lewis Hamilton sent to the back of the grid, a breach of the technical regulations.
He also has a 5-place grid penalty in his pocket for engine component changes, so wherever he finishes the sprint, he's going to have to start 5 places back.
Lewis being penalised is an example of a champion's mindset. We might not always be able to control the conditions that we find ourselves in, but we can always control the response.
It's lights out and away we go. Into turn 1 goes Valtteri Bottas. Ahead of Verstappen on the inside there is Carlos Sainz. Already, Hamilton has made up 4 places. Hamilton giving it absolutely everything here. 14 positions he has gained in 21 laps of this sprint.
Hamilton from last fights his way up.
And he's going to try and make that lunge. And he does make that lunge down the inside. Lewis Hamilton, that is the best move of the lot.
Finishes in 5th. Sensational.
Bottas wins the Saturday sprint. And that is a mega sprint drive from Lewis Hamilton.
So he gets to P5, but obviously from P5 he gets a 5-place grid penalty. He starts the race P10.
Hamilton looked so fast in all the right places on this racetrack.
Nobody had an answer for his pace, and nobody could keep him behind.
He blasts past Sergio Perez.
Hamilton sets off after Max Verstappen.
Here goes Lewis Hamilton. He's trying to take the lead, but he is forced wide, and Verstappen himself has to go off the track.
I wonder what the stewards will think about that.
So Lewis, no investigation for running you off track?
Of course, man. Of course. But I'm not sure we can make this to the end.
Verstappen is weaving all over the road, and he's going to force Hamilton wide again.
Hamilton with a much better exit.
Hamilton pulls ahead of Verstappen. The crowd go absolutely wild. He has gone from last all the way to 1st. What a drive from Lewis Hamilton.
Woo! Yes! Come on, guys. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing.
Hamilton has come home to win the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. He's not ready to loosen his grip on that championship trophy. Not just yet.
For my money, one of the strongest weekend performances from any driver that I've ever seen in Formula One. Just sensational.
Finding himself on the back foot so many times, I mean, he likened it to a race that he'd had in junior series.
My dad reminded me of 2004 when I was in Formula 3 in Bahrain, and I started last, and I finished 10th, and then I finished 1st. So yeah, this one's for my dad.
It's interesting that his father reminded him that years ago he was faced with a similar situation. You've done it before, you can do it again. In many ways, that is his father, being the psychologist. We just don't call it that.
You can see elements of both Anthony and Jos in Lewis and Max. Anthony being by Lewis's side the entire way through his formative years was a very important thing for Lewis.
Yeah, okay, cheers.
Jos dealt with Max with an element of tough love because he knew that his ascent would be fast. If Max was anywhere near as good as Jos was.
It can't be easy being the son of a Formula One driver. The expectation that will be on your shoulders and the grit and determination that Jos knew would take to be a world champion, he would have instilled in Max from very, very early on.
I grew up in the middle of the media, being criticized. That's probably what happens to most sons of, because you're suddenly judged as if you had 20 years of experience, just when you start. I don't know if the need to win comes from an upbringing or parents, or if you're just born with that. But it's not just winning, it's how you perform.
Formula One is in Jeddah, and this evening, under the spectacular lights, it's time to determine the starting grid for the inaugural Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
So the Mercedes has the clear pace advantage around this track.
Coming down across the line, I think this might be enough. It is enough for Lewis Hamilton, who outs Verstappen from the top spot.
Red Bull knew it was going to take something very special to defeat Mercedes.
Oh, Max Verstappen so close there.
I was standing in the interview pen and the other drivers just stopped talking and started watching the screens. And when Fernando Alonso's got his jaw on the floor, you know it's something pretty special.
Max Verstappen is up on what Lewis Hamilton's done. He's up by 2.5 tenths. Final corner to go. Is he able to do it? He's gone wide. He's hit the wall. Max Verstappen hits the wall, and the qualifying lap is over for the Dutchman.
Max did what Max does, kept his foot in, put it straight in the wall. It was so close to being one of the greatest qualifying laps that we'll ever see.
We are getting right down to the serious business end of the season. Lights out and away we go. He is gaining on Max Verstappen. He's going to go for the move here. They almost collided once again. Verstappen kept on to the lead of the race.
This guy's crazy, man.
So let's give the position back to Hamilton.
Oh, they touched and they've collided.
He just brake tested me though, so I didn't know what was going on.
Neither one of them wanted to pass the DRS line first. And they are both equally culpable for the fact that they made contact.
And Hamilton has now got past Verstappen. It's Hamilton and Mercedes on top.
Get in there, Lewis. That has got to be the craziest race I remember.
Verstappen and Hamilton will go to Abu Dhabi level on points.
I think this is the best season I've commentated on.
We've seen brilliance on both sides of a standard of driving which you only get in Formula One.
Whoever wins this amazing World Championship will fully deserve it.
I don't see how we're going to make it to the end.
How is he so far ahead of me?
Look at Lewis is giving that full beans, isn't he? It's got a bit of everything. Two great teams, two great drivers. They've elevated themselves and they're delivering something quite spectacular.
Equal on points, one race, and the title's yours.
No, they almost come together.
Yes, to get that back.
Neither one of them deserved to lose it.
This is barely believable.
No, Mikey, no, Mikey.
But someone had to.